Good morning. At the tone, the time will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
Woke up this morning without a warning. The words were still ringing in my head. It came, it seemed within my dream, a gentle voice, and this is what it said. Stop now, you got to stop and listen to what I say. Stop and feel that you've been missing.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and LFE. Wow, we're giving you, this is kind of a I don't know, what do we call this?
Intro, a prequel intro?
A recovery.
A recovery.
Yeah, I think you got to get a little bit of mic. So this is a little bit of a recovery from an interesting mishap we had this show.
Yes, so this was a very, very insightful show with Barry Eaton. Energetic show, yes. After we recorded this show, both of us, I went home. I didn't get to sleep till almost 11 o'clock that night. Tom...
That was about 11 myself, too.
Yeah, and I mean, and we wake up early, you know. I mean, I get up about 4 o'clock every morning. Tom gets up about 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were just pumped up after this show, and for some reason, you know, technical difficulties. Tell them what happened, Tom.
So, I have the recorder I have. It always shows, well, everything looks good. It all recorded for there on the recorder, and a couple days go by. Sunday morning, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go to edit these files, and I couldn't save it. I couldn't get it out of the recorder. And when I looked at it, it said no file exists. You know, cannot locate file selected, or however they say it. But it was unretrievable on my. So I get a hold of our guest and asked that he's in the broadcasting industry. So I figured, and he had a very good quality sound came out of his side, and so I think he was in his studio and had some good sound equipment, and so I figured, well, he probably recorded this. You know, he's been in it for what, 40 years?
Yeah, a long time.
So I figured he recorded it. So I got a hold of him and asked if that. You know, the funny thing is that I could have swore I recorded this. I know I recorded this, but I can't find the file anywhere. It was gone. He disappeared. He couldn't find it.
No files to be found.
Right. So I was like, crap. Okay. So, well, we decided, okay, interesting and mysterious. You know, not just my recorder fails, and it's never done it again. And we've recorded since then. We did a recording just this afternoon, and the same exact setup, everything, and it worked fine.
Yeah, just fine.
And so, anyways, and this has happened one other time in 6 years. You know, that I've had a file show there that's corrupt or something happened to it. That one, I got a corrupted message. Anyways. Couldn't find this thing, and so we decided we would reschedule and do the show again. It was just the show, you guys, as you hear this, you'll see, and about just an amazing show. This guy was really plugged in, and I personally could palpably feel the energy coming through. You know, his connection. I could feel his connection to his guides or the beings around him. The force around him that was flowing through him. So amazing stuff, and then ready to move on. Haven't even finished this. Got to the punchline yet. So 2 days go by. 2 days go by. But this file.
Yeah. How does it disappear on your desktop? You know, but one thing was that when I heard that, you know, that we didn't have the show anymore. I was just, you know, I was thinking, you know, how are we gonna? I mean, you know, we can't duplicate this.
Yeah,
you know,
no way.
I mean, I would love to do a sequel show, and that's how I was kind of looking at, you know, if we have to re-record, it's going to be more like a sequel, and nobody's going to know what happened before except for us.
Because during that show, both of us got questions answered.
Yeah.
And so once something's resolved within yourself, accessible as far as when you're looking for questions to ask somebody.
Yep.
So I knew we couldn't duplicate performing
No.
energetically. Oh my God. So anyways, guys, I don't want to drag this on too long. As I said, I've got his file now, and the second hour, I think we're going to add in the hour's chat too. So
yeah, good
anyways,
conversation
guys,
on the break.
Much love.
Oh, real quick, the part that got cut off of this recording, we were talking about we were talking about the holistic doctors that
the 29.
Yeah, the 29 that got poisoned over in Germany, and the doctors that have supposedly either went missing or committed suicide here. And we were talking about the GCMAF protein.
These guys were
that they were
microbiologists. No,
they were
holistic doctors.
Holistic doctors, yes, and they were researching this protein that naturally occurs in the human body called GCMAF. So we kind of got into it, but you know, we're dragging this intro on kind of long. So I would just urge everybody listening to Google GCMAF, GCMAF, and just do a little research on that and look into what's going on and look at you know the benefits of GCMAF and actually, you know, producing it. So
good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah. So here we go.
On with the
Barry
show.
Eaton. No goodbyes.
No goodbyes.
All right.
On with the show.
We have got a very exciting show for you guys tonight. You know, we've, as you guys know, we don't shy away from any topics, and this one is one that we have jumped into a few times throughout the years, and it has to do with, you know, what's beyond the veil.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens when we do crossover? I mean, do we have evidence? You know, do we have, you know, how do we qualify this for our lives? How do we qualify it for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we bring ourselves to a place where we lose that thing they call fear of death, right? So we've got Barry Eaton with us, and Barry is he's a broadcaster by his own rights, and he's been doing it for a lot of years over there in Australia, and he's made quite a name for himself, and he's got a couple of books out now talking about the other side, and his most recent book, No Goodbyes, Life-Changing Insights from the Other Side, is what we're going to kind of center the talk around tonight. But welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Barry.
Yay!
Hi, Tom. Thanks very much. Good to talk to you.
Oh, guys, there's a very in-depth bio on the website if you guys want to check it out. And we just want to know who Barry is. So, Barry, what, you know, for me personally, I had that proverbial 2x4 upside the head. I mean, I was the 3D guy. You know, I was living life to party. You know, live fast, die. How do they go? Yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
Live fast,
party,
die young, and
party hard.
looking corpse.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that was me up until my mid-20s when I got that proverbial 2x4 upside the head and asked the question, what the hell's really going on here? And that's what turned me and my feet on the path to trying to understand life and what the hell is really going on in this experience. What was it for you that turned you towards looking into things that are, let's say, on the fringe?
Well, I was doing a talkback radio program on commercial radio in Sydney, Australia back in the 80s, and I used to have a lot of guests on, and then I got a guy on talking about numerology, and that lit the switchboard up, and then I got a friend of his, an astrologer, and then a clairvoyant contacted me, and in my mix of guests that I used to have, I was doing a 5-night-a-week show, and I was just intrigued as to the reaction from all of these people, so I started to become more and more interested. Then the life-changing event is one that I guess changes a lot of people's lives. It's called divorce. And yeah, I can tell it struck a chord with you guys. That happened to me in the very end of the 90s. I was doing by then a dedicated Sunday night program with a clairvoyant. She was taking calls on air, and I was the host of the show. And she said to me on air one night, you know, you're going to be doing this sort of stuff yourself very soon. I said, oh, yeah, that'll be right. Look, I'm doing radio. I'm running a PR company. I'm a journalist. I'm doing this. I'm doing a TV stuff. When am I going to find time? She said, don't worry, it'll happen. And, of course, she was right. And otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys now.
Yeah.
But then the divorce changed things around, and I suddenly realized that life was not going in a really positive direction. So I said to a guy called Gary Wiseman, good name, one night when we were on the show, I said, I'm going to do your astrology course next year. He said, what? I said, where did that come from? I said, I don't know. I just feel as if I need to do it. So I did. I studied astrology back in 1990, 25 years ago now, and that was the platform that changed everything. I built everything on top of that. I was still doing all my mainstream media work, and I then went on to becoming a lecturer in journalism and everything through the 90s, but combining it with the metaphysical side of things. And that was just the beginning. After my divorce, I met a lovely lady back in 1993, and we found we had a very deep soul connection. But we were only together 4 years, and she passed very tragically, very suddenly. By this stage, I was combining my mainstream work with also psychic work, that I was doing psychic readings for people and whatever. And at the end of this whole thing, after her name's Judy, she passed over suddenly and tragically. But I was working with a medium at the time on the radio show that Judy and I had started. And Ruth, this lady's name was, she rang me up and said, would you like to talk to Judy? And I said, well, yes, Ruth, but, you know, she passed over about 3 months ago. She said, yeah, but she's ready to talk to you now. So I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. Now, I've written the whole story in my first book, which is called Afterlife. So unless you really want me to go into it, I won't go into it in great depth. But the contact that I had with Ruth and Judy for the very first time, this is only 3 or 4 months after she passed over, opened the door for me to grow into my own mediumship abilities, and also to start a communication with Judy that started off with automatic writing and then went on into much deeper waters where we started to connect in a very meaningful sort of a way. And just after the turn of the century, I started running a spiritual development group. And Judy used to come through. I called her my little spirit wrangler, because she'd bring spirits in from the other side, and we'd have messages for members of the group and all sorts of things like that. And it just grew exponentially from that. So wow. It's been a journey, but and it still continues. And then when I started to write the books, it was because Judy nagged me from spirit. She kept on sending me messages from various people. You know, you've got to write a book. Yeah, right. I've got to write a book. As if I got time to write a book. And then sort of the time became available after a show I was working on fell over. And I kept on getting these messages. And my very good friend, Robert Murray, who's tragically passed over just a couple of weeks ago up in Canada, wonderful, wonderful medium. Bob rang me one night. He said, hey, Barry, he said, I got this Judy here. And she said, when are you going to write that book? I said, oh, God, all right, I'm going to write this bloody book. So I did. I started to write the book. It didn't start about just the afterlife, but it morphed into that. So that's it in a bit of a nutshell, guys. From then on, it just sort of blew up, and my research and that went in many, many different directions. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about here tonight.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the transition from just being a regular broadcaster into actually doing readings for people was a pretty quick process. Did you have like that psychic blasting opening type thing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't think anybody's asked me that before. As I said, I did the platform of astrology, and at the end of it, we did some stuff just learning to work with the tarot cards. And I found I had just had a natural bent. I don't know what any of the tarot cards really mean, but they just opened up psychically for me, messages and whatever. But one day I started working with this guy, Robert, and he was from Australia in a city called Newcastle. And one day he said to me, look, I've been asked to induct you into the psychic ranks. I thought, oh, really? What's that mean? So he said, well, look, I've got a wonderful Chinese guide who wants to induct you. And we did a little ceremony sort of thing, and I had to promise that I wouldn't do readings for myself, that I would only do positive things for people and give them positive messages, and I'd tell the truth. I wouldn't make things up. You know, all the necessary things that you would expect to do in a little ceremony like that. And then I was inducted into the ranks of the psychics. And everything sort of clicked into place after that as well. So obviously Robert's guide was from the world of spirit. So I guess my path has been laid out for me, and the invitation has been there for many years now, and it was up to me to take it. And I think that's what I've written about in the book. Maybe we can talk about that later, you know, purpose and destiny and life, changing events, things like that.
Right, yeah. That's interesting because right around that same time frame, the early 90s, my 2x4 happened in 1986.
Right.
And it was shortly after there, then right in the 87, 88 range that I too was exposed to the tarot, synchronistically, of course, right? You know, that's how all this stuff works. And it had a very integral part of my early development, especially. And I still use them occasionally today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think if I was to look at your chart, or my partner Anne is a wonderful numerology expert, if she looked at your numbers, she could tell you exactly what was going on at the time for you, because these things are triggered, whether it's through astrology or numerology. We can identify the trigger points, and this is where the opportunities are given to us, and it's up to us. As you said, you had a bit of 2x4 around the left ear hole, and that often helps to wake up. Other people get a kick up the backside, either physically or metaphorically speaking, and we all get it in some way or other, but it's up to us as to whether or not we want to take advantage of it or even take any notice of it.
Oh, exactly. So, you know, the other side, what we're calling the other side tonight, it's you know, that's one of the biggest, it may be the largest fear on the planet.
Yeah.
Fear of death.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
And for, you know, for the average person out there, it's just something that they don't contemplate. They have no desire to even think about. It's like whenever the topic comes up, it's like they want, you know, nothing. It has that feeling and that taste of sorrow and sadness and tears and pain and you know, all those negative things that have been tied to it and associated to it through our societal upbringing and training. You know, our indoctrination into Western society is fear death.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm curious, what was that point for you where the fear was pulled away?
As a very young person, I feared death. After that, it never really even occurred to me. But I must admit, as I started to write the books Afterlife and now No Goodbyes, that became an integral part of the message, helping people overcome this fear. It's really irrational when you think about it, because it's going to happen to all of us. But it's painted, as you said, in such lurid fashion, and we feel this loss, this desperate loss, and especially if it's a child or a very young person, we feel, oh, that's it, we'll never see them again. But it does quite often go back to our core beliefs that we are a body with a soul, and we focus everything on our body. Whereas if you reverse that and you say, yep, we are a soul or a soul energy using a human body to have a human experience, once you can take that basic message there, it immediately puts the perspective in a slightly different direction. Because a soul being energy can't be destroyed. It can be transmuted, but you can't destroy energy, law of physics. So if we are a soul energy, and that energy has come from somewhere, let's call it the other side, the afterlife, you know, whatever you want, a world of spirit, you know, whatever label you want to put on it, it makes sense that after we've finished having our human experience by using a body like a vehicle to get around in and have that experience, when the body dies, because that's the only part of us that dies is the body, we talk about the remains after people have died, then the soul lives on and goes back to where it came from, the world of spirit, the afterlife, the other world. So life is a continuing cycle. And then when we take into account reincarnation, which we can talk about later as well, the fact that we are immortal souls, we are indestructible as such, and we are having a series of human experiences. And the reason we're doing this is to grow after all the experiences that we have, to grow our soul, have these experiences, and as we grow, we advance further into the world of spirit, because the afterlife is just like here on earth, various socio-economic levels, if you like. Over there, though, it's the socio levels. The economics don't really matter. There's no such thing as money, fortunately. But it's the development of the soul that decides where you will be in the afterlife, in the many, many spheres and planes of existence that there are. It's not just one place over there. It's a vast, vast world of spirit with many, many different spheres and levels.
So with the many different spheres and levels, is that where we get, the heaven and the hell from? Yeah,
well, of course, that's put the frighteners into people. Tell them about hell. If you don't do what we tell you, exactly what we tell you, you'll burn up, you'll go to hell, and we'll have a demon sticking a pitchfork up into your nasty regions for the rest of eternity.
Yeah. But do you think that's something that if you believe that there's a hell and that you're going to go to it, by some, however you've been brainwashed throughout your life, do you think that you're going to actually manifest that for yourself because of your belief in it?
Well, when the soul leaves the body, and the soul, by the way, is the vehicle for the soul is the spirit. So the spirit wraps around the soul, attaches itself to the body at the heart level, so hence we get heart and soul. When the spirit leaves the body, it heads back in the normal direction that it would go, according to what you have done in that particular lifetime that you're just leaving. And as I said, it's the development of the soul energy, the imprints that are on the soul, that will determine the direction. It's like the fact that if you've got $10,000, you can afford a first-class air ticket. If you got $2.50, you'd be lucky enough to hitch a ride somewhere. Yeah. It depends on you. It depends on what you have done, what you've achieved, and the vibratory rate of your soul. And because the higher the vibrations, then you go into the higher vibration levels in the other dimension, the afterlife. But if you have been a particularly nasty sort of a person, and we know that the world's full of them, you can't expect to go over there and be welcomed on the other side. You have got to go over there and account for your life, what you've done, the people you've hurt, the injuries you've done, the damage you've caused, whether that be on a personal level or a vast international level. It will depend on where you go. Now, this, from my experience, and please believe me, everybody who's listening too, this is my research, what I've been told from many spirits on the other side, and I can tell you later about, these spirits if you like. But this is my research. I'm not expecting you to say Barry Eaton knows everything, good old know-all from Australia. This is my research, and I have been told there is no such place as hell. No man in a red suit with horns and a pitchfork and nasty grinning demons and things. But there are levels, there are spheres, the lower spheres, the lower astral we call it, where you will go to if you have been a thoroughly evil person. And even there are levels there. And you will go into darkness. You will go into very challenging areas, but you will be helped. You're not going to be just shoved in there and like put into prison and rot for the rest of eternity. That doesn't happen. You're helped. But if you are not expecting to go anywhere, at first you won't really go anywhere. You'll go into a kind of what might be described as a limbo, I guess, but you're still in the astral. There are some wonderful stories about people who don't expect to have anything, the skeptics who believe that when you die, the lights are switched off. You're in eternal darkness. And spirits have gone over there and they've been in darkness. But after a while, they're hearing voices. They're getting people saying, come on, you can come out of that darkness. All you have to do is just Be willing to do it. Come on, we'll help you. When you're ready, let us know. And it depends on that person. But there's a wonderful story that I put in my book Afterlife about this soul that went over there into this grey nether region, I should say, and not expecting anything, didn't get anything, but eventually, when he agreed to be able to come out of this, the fog that was around him melted away, and he found that he was standing in the middle of a green area, a park-like area, and all sorts of life going all around him. He'd been standing there, figuratively speaking, with life going on around him, while in this self-imposed fog. Now, take that as a basis for any experience, and this is the kind of thing that can happen. So it is up to us, it is up to your own beliefs. But if you at least keep an open mind and an open heart, then you are going to find a very different reaction to somebody who goes with set beliefs, there is nothing, or I'm going to hell. Yeah, you've got to go through that because you've created it for yourself.
Right. So are you familiar with the Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come?
I am indeed.
Oh, yes. So do you think that sort of scenario is fairly accurate?
Oh, look, it's Hollywood. How can it be accurate?
well, the concepts within it, there were some certain concepts within that show that, his suicided wife that had ended up in in her own personal hell.
Yeah.
And she was trapped there because of her own guilt.
Yeah.
So, that sort of scenario, that in particular actually resonated with me somewhat.
Sure. Look, I don't ascribe to that, nor do any of my spiritual advisors, shall we say. While suicide is breaking your life contract, it's not as if you're going to end up in a horrible pit of hell-type conditions the way it was in the movie. And it is Hollywood, let's face it.
Right. I'm not trying to point towards that particular scenario, but I'm looking at a broader vision of the concepts that were put in there as far as creating your own environment at least within kind of I guess I would say sort of an in-free area. I guess What Dreams May Come, at the very end of it, they kind of went into the community area where they were all able to, interact with others that were on the other side. But creating your own realm until a sort of a transition area, an area where you're able to get your feet underneath you, so to say.
Yeah, well, the journey that happens with most people. And once again, we've got 7 billion plus people on the planet. Everybody's got their own individual story. We're all the star of our own movie. But when we get over the other side, there are certain things that are common to all of us. We do have to go in there and have some kind of healing process that happens, because you're taking the imprint of your life with you when you go back again. So there is a healing process that goes on. Then we have a life review. And after that, we're usually met by members of our own soul family and help to settle in on the other side. There is, of course, no way of speaking over there. We don't have a voice box. So everything is done with the power of thought. We create our own environment over there. So yes, it's quite possible if you went over there with this huge, massive guilt and you could create your own surroundings, yeah, it's very likely that certainly thing can happen. But you're not going to be left there, as it was in the Robin Williams movie, left to sort of suffer eternal damnation and shame and guilt and whatever. It's done in a loving way. People are helped. People are helped to understand. We all make mistakes. We all do things. And, of course, while suicide is frowned upon and you're breaking your contract, you're not relegated to you go over there into the suicide pit. That's not happening. People are helped, but usually, from what I understand, we have to come back again then into another life. You can't escape. You can't run away from situations by committing suicide. And you've got to be able to then realize the mistake you've made. And in the vast majority of cases, from what I've been told, people have to come back again and do it all over again, under different conditions perhaps, with different cast in the movie they've created for themselves. But it's still, you cannot just get away with things. You can't escape, whether it's a bad relationship or an upset life or whatever. You cannot escape. Mental conditions, that's a different question altogether, where people may commit suicide while under a mental strain or mentally unbalanced or whatever. But people who consciously go on suicide, and I don't know about it in the States, but out here, I was absolutely appalled the other day to hear that under 40 years of age, the highest death rate for men in Australia is suicide. I mean, how tragic is that?
Wow.
Really, really sad. So what are they doing? Are they escaping? They can't find themselves a girlfriend. They can't find themselves a good job or a place in society, or they're being hounded or trolled on the internet or what. I don't know. But what a tragic situation this is, that we've got to opt out of one of the greatest gifts you can ever have, and that's life.
That might be one of the signs of the shifting of our times.
Yeah. Yeah, look,
not able to handle the new realities that are coming in. So
we've agreed to this, Tom, before we come in. We've agreed to the conditions at a soul level, and it's like agreeing to take a contract in a job. You were talking about earlier on in the show. Your truck blew up. You boys have got high energy, haven't you, both of you? But you had that problem. If you were working for somebody else and there were problems around you, you said, oh, look, I've got a contract, yes, for the next 5 years, but I can't stand this. I'm going to opt out of this. You let everybody down all around you. You upset all your other co-workers. You cost the boss a lot of money. You know, what are you expected to do? Just walk out of there and say, I'm totally justified? Or is there a responsibility for the contract you've signed? Similar thing. I write about in my books, as above, so below, because so many of the conditions we create here on Earth are a reflection of what happens in the afterlife. We bring that back with us subconsciously. So if we create contracts like this, we've got to live up to them. If you don't, there's ramifications. There's things that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've always thought about suicide as, just pushing the reset button. And, and I've always thought, too, I mean, I've made it this far, and I've had to go through some shit. I don't want to have to do it again. I mean,
fair enough.
I just don't want to do it again. I'm just going to keep it going. But so I got a question for you, though, Barry.
Yeah.
So do you think that as we sit here now, we have, we're in a physical body with our soul and our spirit. Do you think that there's a higher aspect of ourself already in that spirit realm?
Oh, very much. Very much.
Okay.
From what I've been told, and it's been backed up by after research on this, that we only bring a certain percentage of our soul energy with us into the human body, and we do leave an integral part of our essence, shall we say, back in the world of spirit. You can call it your oversoul, your higher self, whatever. And it's this connection that we can have with ourselves at a deeper level. We talk about intuition coming from within, and it's connecting with this other aspect of ourselves. But unfortunately, some people don't elect to bring enough soul energy with them, and quite often that's where you can see people who are very weak or anemic or whatever physically. They just have not got the energy. And most of us bring somewhere around about 70-80% of our essence with us, from what I understand. But some people bring a little more, some people bring a little less.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier, and that this has to do with us being energy, primarily energy, and one of those things that surrounding the fear aspect that people have of death, and understanding the fact that we are energy. I guess where I'm going here is what is it that we can do for ourselves to validate it for ourselves that we are this energy body, and that we're not just the physical being that it appears. The physical tells me that this is all that I am. I don't see any physical evidence. What can we do for ourselves to help reinforce the truth that's out there?
And that's a great question. That is really a great question. And it's not easy, and it's going to differ, obviously, to every single person. Quite often we'll have this wake-up call at some stage in our life. A lot of people have what we call near-death experiences, NDEs, where something happens, they have a huge accident, there's an operation, the soul leaves the body, it goes off down the tunnel. You guys have probably investigated this yourself. And when people come back from a near-death experience, then their lives are transformed. They suddenly realize, wow, there is a lot more to life than just what I've been going through. Now, that can be a very vital experience, and apparently there are millions and millions of people all over the world that have near-death experiences. Not a lot are reported because people are afraid they're going to be laughed at or ridiculed by friends, family, workmates, and whatever. So that's one area where people are given the opportunity to wake up. Other times we can have these transformational experiences. Tom, you talked about being whacked over the ear with a piece of what we call in Australia 4x2. You call it 2x4, do you? We call it a 4x2. But anyway, this can happen.
You drive on the wrong side of the road, too.
Yeah, well, there you go. But this can happen in many ways. But for people who consciously want to do something like this, the state of intent is really, really important. You can't do anything without creating an intention to do it. I mean, your intention to have me on the guest list of your program, that was fantastic. Then that intention turns into an action which turns into where we are right now. So that if you really want to open up to this sort of thing, it's up to you to make that first move if it's not happening from the outside. But people who are listening right now might want to say, well, okay, how can I do something like this? You've got to be wanting to do it. You've got to take the responsibility on yourself. It's not always going to happen for you. But when you are ready, there's an old saying, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. And once you start opening up to these things, somebody will recommend a book, you'll see a movie, you'll a TV show, whatever, you'll go along and hear a talk, or something will happen once you start to open up that will help you to further investigate. It's not something that like you can take like a magic pill or whatever. Yep, if I do this, then yes, I'm going to realize I've got a soul. But I think a lot of people are realizing there's a lot more to life than sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's where we've been pushed into this corner. And it's been going on for thousands of years. The Romans called it bread and circuses. The powers that be want to get out there and run the world. The 1%ers, we know all about them. They want to have everything their way. So give them mortgages, give them sex, give them drugs, give them all sorts of things like that. Keep them amused, keep them downtrodden, while we get on with running the world and making the money. Now, that's been going on since, as I said, Roman times, earlier than that. It's happening now. If you want to get out of that mentality, it's up to you. You've got to start doing something about it and questioning it. And if you don't feel comfortable with the fact that you are something more than just a body, then it's that first intention. Yes, I want to find out more. I want to find out more. Because everywhere you look, it's all body image. You look at, all these crazy, I'm not going to mention any names here, but there are certain bimbos on movies and television and that sort of thing that wander around, and all they are is pretty little fluff bags of absolute nothing. And if you press the balloon,
they're real.
Full of hot air. But there is so much of this that's going on. Everybody lives at the surface, not everybody, but a vast majority of people are living right on the surface of life. And if you want to just float along the surface, that's up to you. But if you really want to make a difference, you want to learn something, then stick your head under the water.
Yeah. So kind of carrying on on the same question line. So for those of us that have just started getting into it or have been into it for a while, it seems like we have these big upswings where we get a bunch of downloads, or we come into these certain understandings, and the energy's super high, and then it just kind of flattens out, and we go on these flat spots for a while, and we're not really seeing any improvement. We're still working on ourselves and keeping our minds clear, but we're really not having any sort of experiences, any kind of clairvoyancy.
Yeah, well, don't forget, LFE, that we are living in the age of instant gratification. Was that wonderful movie, Terms of Endearment, when Shirley MacLaine said the trouble with instant gratification is it takes too long? And And this is it. We want this magic pill. We want to go to a doctor. Yeah, I've got this huge problem. Here, give me a pill. Give me a box of pills. Give me something. I want to have it. I want it now. I want more of it, and I want it to keep on going. And I don't want to have to do much about it. And this is a syndrome where we expect something to be happening. We want to be constantly entertained. We want to be constantly educated or whatever. We've got the internet. We can look up anything. It takes 5 seconds. And this is the world we're living in now. But there are certain things that you do need patience for. You do need to be able to keep, you reach certain levels, and yeah, you do flatten out. Right, we all go through those flattened out periods. But are we growing spiritually at the time? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And we may not be intellectually or to our own desires growing quickly enough, but it's what we're doing and what we're integrating and what we're learning. And if you are in a slow period, yeah, just keep on working out how you can maybe expand and do something a little bit different. But we can't expect these huge hits the whole time. It's just not practical, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said instant gratification. That's been one of the things we've been talking about here recently too. Is I mean, especially right now with all the hype about this month, and these energy or these shifting times that are happening right now, especially at this month.
Yeah,
and
this month is a big one.
Yeah, and I'm hearing so much talk about it, and I mean, almost everything I'm hearing is about an instant change. You're just going to wake up in the morning and life's going to be instantly better for everybody. And as much as I would love to see that happen, I mean, I would love to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I don't have to go to work. I can stay in bed for another 20, 30 minutes. As much as I would love to have that happen, I just don't see it being realistic. But I also see, a lot of people who have
bought into
it. Yeah. And so, when the next day comes, they're going to be on that flat point again.
Well, this is right. I mean, so many people, we've been hearing for years now. 2012 was going to change everything. The Mayan civilization, we were going to go into a new age, and the whole bit. We expect to wake up and suddenly find ourselves in the fifth dimension and all this sort of thing. It's I don't know where all this comes from, but it doesn't happen like that. It's gradual growth, and that's where we're going from what my observation is anyway. Like you, it'd be very nice to wake up the next morning and suddenly find yourself in the fifth dimension, without having to worry about all sorts of things. But that's unreal. That's, once again, it's the Hollywoodized image of life.
Well, it doesn't seem like if we came here to have this experience, and to go through these changes, it seems like we'd be cheating ourselves out of something.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if something just happened immediately, what would you do? You'd wake up, be different. Oh, all right. Well, that was good. What's going to happen now? What's next?
Yeah, what's next? What does December hold for us?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This month, September, is a big one, and we've got a lunar eclipse coming up on the 28th, which is the tetrad, the fourth blood moon, and we're in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. We're having all sorts of upsets and turmoil and things like that right now. But that doesn't mean to say the world is going to come to an end. It just means that there are certain things that are happening, and there's always things happening in the world.
Yeah, there's always things ending and things beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a big one for a lot of people out there. Those flat spots and the spikes, and then when they'll get into a flat spot, they'll get on the internet and they'll go, okay, what's next? And when they start asking what's next, Spirit's going to guide them to something that's going to satisfy their need. And what do? Well, they find the last sensational, something like the last sensational thing that really got them going. The last one was all the hype about 2012 and the ships are going to come get us or whatever. And now, right now, what I'm seeing, and I spoke about this a couple times the last month or so with some of our guests, that I saw a lot of people, and I'm pretty energetically sensitive, and when the whole 2012 thing, which I never bought into, when it all came and passed, And I felt such a disappointment and despair and sorrow and just a futility with life from so many different quarters on the planet, because there wasn't that, switch turned on or ascension happened. They were still in their real bodies. They weren't gone into their light bodies.
Yeah.
And I'm just afraid, I see these other things that start gaining a lot of ground, a lot of traction. I mean, that a lot of people are buying into, and they're hoping for that instant gratification. And when it doesn't happen, they're going to spiral right back down into that despair again. And I guess I'm being greedy for myself, because I don't want to feel send that energy from everybody again.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, but you've only got to look around. You walk into a cafe or a restaurant or something like that, or a bus stop or a train station. What do? You see, a whole bunch of teenagers with their faces stuck into a smartphone.
Right. People
cannot leave messages alone. They're not checking their phone every 30 seconds to see if somebody's said something on Facebook about them or whatever. It's this constant buzz, this electric energy that we need to have around us. We can't just be. Instead of being human beings, we're human doings. We're human sufferers. I don't know, whatever you want to say, but we need to start to just be. We need to learn to reconnect with nature and to meditate and get out of this constant monkey mind chatter that we've got going around us the whole time. And it's very hard to convince people of this when the digital world is so exciting and such a buzzy world. But, if that just keeps on going, you've got to wonder, where are we going to all end up?
Yeah.
Well, I also see, from what everybody's saying, that's supposed to happen, or what's supposed to happen on the 23rd of this month or the 28th of this month. I also see a flip side of that, in a sense that, there's been a lot of good messages that have come through, that people have put out about, times changing, people, uplifting their consciousness, just learning how to live a sustainable society, right? So, so if there's enough people that are projecting that out there, that, yes, we want to actually, awaken and have, unity consciousness and live in a sustainable society, it's almost like a conscious push from everybody going in that direction. But where I'm having troubles at is that the day after, when it's not immediately gratified, who's going to be stuck, who's going to be left doing the work to actually see it through?
Yeah, well, this is right. And this is the hassle, I think, that people in spirit realize what's going on. And I'm in touch with a group of spirits, which I've written about in No Goodbyes, and they talk to me through a mouthpiece, a spoke spirit, as I call him, and they communicate from many, many levels of the afterlife, expressing their concerns. And that's why the book I've written about life-changing insights from the other side, they look at us and they realize that we are getting ourselves into a huge problems. They can't come and help us out. They can advise, they can push, they can put little suggestions, whispers in the mind, all sorts of things. But they realize the challenges of 21st century living, and they know we've got things like GMOs, we've got huge mental health problems, we've got drug problems, and we've got world events, big changing events. Now, I've written about all of these things in No Goodbye because the spirits on the other side want us to know. Yeah, they want us to, first of all, know there is no reason to fear death, but there are so many other things that they want us to know about as well, that we can look at our life instead of just accepting life from the outside. We need to start taking responsibility. We need to start doing some of the things for ourselves and not just be little automatons sitting out there. Otherwise, we'll end up like artificial intelligence in a couple of 100 years' time. But there were so many messages that they wanted to get out, and this is the reason I've written both of these books, that we need to wake up to ourselves somewhere along the line. And one thing they have told me is there are very big changes along the way, very soon, very big changes, and at the moment, it's not predictable where these changes are going to take us. And that's just one of the things that I've written about in No Goodbyes.
Yeah, well, I think, if all of us out there, just set our intentions, for what we actually want out of this life. That's one of the things I do every morning is I set my intentions for the day,
Yeah.
And to me, I find that extremely powerful, especially when we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and driving to work. Sometimes it's hard to set those good intentions, but by the time I'm done, my whole mood has changed. My whole feeling has changed, and it's just something that only takes a few minutes. But I just feel the amount of energy that is put out by each one of us when we do that. It's got to help for something.
Well, of course it does. And you look at any business, there's an action plan for a year, action plan for the month, for the week, for the day, whatever. And this is basically just setting intentions. And every business has its own plan that's there. And if you don't, it's just chaos. Everybody wanders into work and just has a great old time and goes home and nothing's been done. And it's the same thing in our own life. Unless we set that intention and do something about it and help to manifest and not just wait for things to come to us out of the blue, then life is going to drift, isn't it? Getting back to your original question, why are we having these flat spots? Well, if you're having a flat spot, work out what it is that you want to do for the next aspect of yourself and put it out to your spirit guides, because we've got spirit helpers around us all the time, every one of us. And they can't come in and just do things for us, but they can help push us in the right direction.
Yeah. So tell us about this group that you said you have this group that on the other side that works with you.
Yeah. A friend of mine, I've worked with a couple of mediums as well as my own direct contacts, but a couple of conscious mediums, where that means that they're getting thoughts and receiving information while they're conscious. A trance medium goes into a deep trance and allows their body to be taken over by another spirit from the other side. And this is the ultimate form of channeling, I guess. Now, I've worked with a young guy called Kelly, who's a brilliant trance medium. I've helped get him on the track to start with. I saw his potential. He's a real natural. So I put him down into a very deep sort of trance area, and he then allows the spirit of John Dingwall to come through. John was a very well-known screenwriter and film producer here, whom I knew briefly in Australia before he passed over about 10 or 11 years ago. Now, John comes through with all the information from these spirits at various levels. Now, I first thought, gee, when I started talking to John, wow, you've learned a hell of a lot in the few years you've been over there. You must be a pretty advanced spirit. But then he admitted to me, and it was only really for the second book that I wrote, No Goodbyes, that he is, as I call, a spoke spirit, and there's about 95 or 100 different spirits speaking through him at any one time. So quite often I'll ask a question, and it was just a moment, and then the information is flashed straight into his brain, and he can pass it on, or he doesn't have a brain, straight into his consciousness, and that information comes through. Other times they were telling me various things they wanted to address for us. Initially it was, yes, we want to get the word out. There is no fear of death because there is no such thing as death. That was the first book I wrote, Afterlife, explaining about the fear and the irrational fear, the process. In my first book, I was actually taken back to when I was killed in the First World War trenches, and then I took the journey from there in the book right through to the birth in my current life, as well as a lot of other exploration along the way. So John was there in that, and I was getting this information from him as well as from other sources. But for No Goodbyes, I was given this information when I went back to talk to John, having got the first book, Afterlife, out. I had a session with Kelly and said, look, John, just want to say thanks a lot. It's been great, and we can have a chat every now and then. Love to keep catching up. He said, hang on, just a moment. He said, you don't think that's it, do you? You've only just begun. You've got at least one more book in you. I said, what? He said, yes, we've got so much information to get out there. So he said, right, let's start now. So we did, and of course I record all of these sessions. I've actually played a couple of them. I've got my own radio program on the internet called Radio Out There, and I've played a few of these sessions with John, and I get a wonderful response from people, because John is the spoke spirit, and the information that he gets is from people from very advanced level down to people who are associated with whatever question, because we all specialize. When we go back to the afterlife, we're working in various areas. It's not just, you don't get over there and issued with the obligatory harp and cloud and told, okay, you can float off now, sunshine, that's the end for you. Goodbye, and we'll see you in a couple of 100 years. No, that doesn't happen. As I said before, we have the healing, we have the life review, then we get on with various things over there, looking at our own life, what we've just led, and preparing ourselves for our next life, but also doing work and helping with spirits that are coming over, helping with many, many different facets of life in the spirit world, as well as connecting and staying in touch with our loved ones back on Earth. So it's a pretty busy old time, but it's a lovely time as well over there. So the spirits, as they advance, as I said before, according to the various lifetimes we've had, we advance within the afterlife. And some of them are really, really advanced spirits, I've been told, that are sending this information through. So we're not making it up. I'm reporting it, I'm writing about it, but the information has been passed along to me so that we can get it out from a whole host of spirits. And I was delighted to find that John mentioned to me that my late partner Judy is one of that group. And she's been passed over now she left us in 1997 and went home. So what's that? 15 years now? No, 18 years.
18 years. 18
years. So she's been doing a lot of work on the other side, and she's a really advanced spirit now as well. So and I even found out my own father is in the group, and I only reconnected with him spiritually through another medium earlier this year. At an afterlife.
Do you think this group is part of what's being called soul group or soul family?
Yeah, well, look, that's a good question, Tom, because we when we go back, we have a soul family, and we have an extended soul family or an extended soul group. But our close family are people that we tend to travel through many, many different lifetimes. Some of those soul family, some of the members will be on Earth with us at the moment. Others are back in spirit, and we reconnect with them. But the extended soul family can be many, many different people that you know, and a lot of them that you don't even recognize in this life because they haven't actually hit the earth at the same time, or certainly are not in the same country as you are. You may not meet them at all, but you will meet other members of your extended family because they'll be playing a part in your life. And it may be as a member of your earthly family, but it may be also workmates, friends. It can even be your worst enemy.
Right.
Because they have agreed to come down here and work with you and understand through conflict or through many different things what you need to know and what they need to know as well through that conflict. So they're
playing their part in your play.
Yep, exactly. It's exactly what I've talked about in Afterlife. We are really actors in our own play. And we've got all this cast, this travelling cast, and we're writing the script and co-writing the script, but we are working with it as we're going through each lifetime.
So where can people pick up the books at?
Good bookstores, bad bookstores. Look, yeah, it's available, of course, online. You can go through any of the online the companies there. The books Afterlife and No Goodbyes are published by Tarcher in the States, which is an imprint of Penguin Group, and they're available. Also, you can find out more about them. You can read. I've got a couple of websites. My radio program is called radiooutthere.com. There's links across to my book, and the websites that I've got are also linked across from there. So that's a good place to start.
And the websites are Barry Eaton, nogoodbyes.com, and the other one?
The other one is just barryeaton.com.
Oh, there we go. All right, well, we are at the end of this first hour, and wow, good stuff, Barry. We've got so much more to cover. I don't know how we'll all fit it all in. I think we'll definitely touch on reincarnation for sure in the second hour, and so So if you're out there listening on one of the other media formats, the YouTubes, the Vimos, the iTunes, or wherever this happens to land, and you want to check out our two, go on over to www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, where you'll find this show and 6 years of other shows. So lots of good stuff there, guys. We will see you in hour 2. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change.
Namaste.
You've been missing along the way. Put aside your petty fight and serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one door. World's gone wrong. Only love is and if the cure for one, the cure for us all. There's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. You came to see me the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know there's just one door in a world gone wrong. We only love it. And if the cure for one, it's the cure for all. Step right up and don't be shy. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. Pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick up the call. Complicated, it's really all quite simple in the end. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it be. Cast out the doubt, the mind is chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know there's just one door in the world gone wrong. Up and don't be shy, got to look yourself right in the eye. There's a magic moment trying to meet you, an urgent message trying to reach you. The phone is ringing off the wall, so pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick up the call. Pick up the call. You gotta pick it up, pick it up, pick it up now. Pick up the call.